All right, I see Manisha, Janani, Garima. Amit Rautela, Reena. Nagraj, Mubarak Beg. Those whose names are called out, if you can just switch off your video so that I can meet the others as well. Wahid, Vishal, Priyanka, and Nikhil. Kiral. Priyanka, I didn't see you in the last session. Were you not there?
I told you na my laptop camera was not working at that time. I've logged in through my mobile application and I also
Okay.
told you to mark the attendance.
All right. Thank you. Levina, you may switch off. Nikhil can also switch off. Kiral noted. Deepak Mishra. Okay. Ajit Chavan, I don't see you. Jagdish, I don't see you. While I see the camera is still on, but I am unable to make you out. Sunil, yes.
Ma'am, maybe some camera issue is there because my camera is on. Yeah.
Okay. What about Balchandra is yet to join? Do we have Shripati in session? I don't see him as well.
Madam, I have joined.
Where are you? I don't see you on camera.
Okay.
Okay, Shripati, I see you. Garima, I see I've marked your this. We don't have Farhan. Okay. Yes, Surya not around. Do we have Logi? Logi also missing. Nitin Kale yet to join. Ajit, yes, I've noted it. Thank you.
You have already marked my attendance.
Yes, yes, Garima, that is correct. Wanted to check with the others. Romana.
Madam, yesterday mine is not marked, I think so, madam.
We are taking it from the system. If you've been joining the sessions, we will see what is, it's a system driven this. Romana, I did not find you responding in the first session. So just want to put it out to Romana. It's not just marking the attendance. If we call out the name and if you're not there, then that goes as a comment against the candidate. So please be mindful. Certain candidates, we
Okay,
did
ma'am.
call out the name and we did not get any response. So appropriate notations have happened on their list. I would want to see Sadashiv. Sadashiv, with the camera on,
Hello,
please.
ma'am. Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Hi.
Hi,
Good
ma'am.
evening.
Good evening.
All right. Do we have Ramesh? Vangari Ramesh? Yes, I see you, Vangari Ramesh. Do we have Vidya in session? Not yet. Okay. All right. So Shripati, Ramesh, Jagdish, Sunil, you may all switch off, giving an opportunity for others who might not yet have come into the session. So we have about 8 candidates who are still missing, and the others have managed to join up on time. All right. Is there anyone whose name has not been called out? Rohit Pathak. Yes. Let me mark your attendance. Thank you, Rohit. So I think Sweetie, I haven't got a chance to see Sweetie. Sweetie, if you're logged in, I would want you to switch on your video as well. Yes. All right, Sweetie. Thank you. All right, so today we talk about incentives. Let me proceed to the session and let me share the deck on incentives. I'm sure a lot of eager candidates waiting to understand the incentive structure in detail. So let me just share the screen and let me know if the same is visible at your end.
No, not at all visible, madam. Now okay.
Now it is visible, ma'am.
Now it is visible, madam.
All right. All right, so give it a little bit of time. There's a little bit of lag, I think. So let's start with incentives. All right. So all of you all here have been in the system for about 30 days or more. So you all qualify for the Q4 incentives. Let's understand what the incentive structure is all about so that we have a better understanding and better control on earning those incentives. How many of us have gone through this incentive document? Had the opportunity to go through the incentive document, have some idea of how the incentive structure is designed? Yes? So when Shripati says yes, okay. What about the others? Not interested in earning incentives? Not bothered to check? All right. Nonetheless, if not seen, this would be a good enough opportunity for all of us to get acquainted and familiarize ourselves with the incentive structure. Point to be noted here is the incentive structure is designed in sync with your KRA structure. So as long as a candidate, an RM, does well on the KRA parameters, you will do well on the incentive piece as well. The incentive structure has been designed with a view that every RM gets an opportunity to make incentives, and there are healthy incentives up for grabs. Today, if you were to do a peer-to-peer comparison between banks in terms of, how the incentive structure is designed, you will find that Axis Bank fares really high and one of the best banks to offer one of the best incentive schemes to our RMs. And there are a lot of RMs across the country who are doing phenomenally well and making those incentives quarter on quarter. What is important is to understand how the incentive structure works. How is it? What are the categories? How is it that I can maximize those earnings? And at the same time, understand where is it possibly that, I am doing things wrong, or maybe I'm not understanding the structure well, so that, maybe I'm falling out or missing out on my incentives. Today, the incentive structure should act as a motivator for each one of you all to do well. As long, like I said, because it's closely in sync with your KRAs, as long as you are able to meet and perform well on your KRA parameters, the incentives also will be easy for you to achieve. So let's look at the incentive document in detail and understand how is it and what are the weightages here. So if you look at the division of how the incentive program has been designed, you'll find that even like your KRAs, incentives for the purpose of earning incentives and good incentives and make incentives, you would need to do well on your liability piece, because 50% of your incentive weightage comes from the liability side. So like you had a clear focus on liabilities on your KRAs, similarly, there is a clear focus of liabilities in your incentives as well. And here the liability, 50% of the component comes from your liability book. You have 25% being generated from your fee income and 25% on customer engagement. And a culmination of all three parameters make your incentives. Now, the liability book is further divided into 35% weightage being given to your CASA and 15% from your TD book. So as long as your liability book is being worked upon, you will find that there is a strong possibility that you'll make good incentives. Clubbed with the fee income that you bring in, clubbed with your scores on customer engagement, you will be getting an opportunity to make incentives. However, there are certain benchmark thresholds that you need to achieve. There are certain gating parameters that have been set in place so that we understand that, your work is more focused. You know what are the parameters that you need to cross to make those minimum incentives? How is it that you can maximize those incentives? And that understanding becomes extremely critical so that a seasoned or a smart RM would work in the right direction so that you can make those incentive numbers. So like we discussed here, liabilities plus fee income plus customer engagement scores will give you your incentives. Now, the incentive concept is divided into two parts. One is what is the scores that you achieve on each of these parameters, and second is the revenues that you generate on each of these parameters. So a culmination of your scores and revenues will bring forward your incentives. Scores become the gating parameter. So you need to understand that there has to be a 60% and above score that you need to achieve to even qualify for incentives. And once you qualify for incentives, depending upon how much revenue have you generated, depending upon the scores, you will be given a percentage of it as a payout in the form of incentives. So let's understand this. This is how the score calculation works. As we discussed, 50% is from your liability scores, 35% from your growth in the incremental growth that we see, both from your ETB book and your NTB book. ETB book, again, the accounts that have been in the system as on 31st March last year, and NTB is the new accounts that have got added into your portfolio in this financial year. So we need an incremental increase in the balances. So as far as the incremental increase contributes to your both ETB and NTB set of accounts, those get calculated at 35% weightage. And 15% of your incentive weightage comes from your growth that we see in your TD book, both ETB and NTB put together. So totaling to 50% is dependent on how your liability book performs. What is the incremental growth that we see in your liability book? And that contributes to your incentive. Second, the fee income piece. The fee income, unlike your KRAs, where you had to qualify for a minimum threshold of 80% across two parameters, for the purpose of incentives, whatever fee income that you generate across, and it's a free architecture, it's an open architecture, whatever fee income that you generate, you get full credit for the same, and it is fully fungible. But the weightage is restricted to 25%. So IPG, OCS, RFR, whatever revenues that you generate, whatever business that you do, everything gets counted for the purpose of incentive calculation. 25% weightage there across all three parameters. Plus, you have an advantage of a mapped book income booster. We will understand what is map book income booster. Map book income booster, to give you an idea, is how much of your fee income is generated from your portfolio customers. This needs to be understood because what happens is you get extra credits for the fee income, be it across IPG, OCS, or RFR, that you generate from your portfolio customers. So because it's an open architecture, you get business credit any which ways, but you get extra credits if that fee income is generated from your map book. That is the concept of the income booster, which is on your map book. The third parameter of customer engagement having a weight of 25% comes in from the other qualitative parameters in terms of what is the grouping that you have done. So number of customers grouped under family, the product penetration in terms of number of unique products sold, and the customer deepened. And all put together will contribute to your final scores. So this score is very, very important. And as long as you cross the threshold benchmark scores, you will be able to earn incentives. Do we have any questions as on this particular slide or up to the discussion here? Does that make sense? Are you all able to follow how the incentive has been aligned towards your KRA and towards the RM achieving what is the expectation from the organization? Yes,
Madam,
any questions?
Madam,
Yes, Shripati.
For example, if we are unable to get NTB gating, can we get incentive, madam? Sometimes it is only difficult. Sometimes it is, I feel.
Yes, so hold on. We will look at each of these parameters in further detail for clarity. But as of now, I'm just trying to understand if you've got an understanding of the overview of how the incentive works and the weightages, so on. Let's understand each of these parameters because these have been explained in the further slides. The importance of your acquisition numbers, the importance of meeting those 60% scores, so on. So pause your question for a few minutes and let's address that as we go ahead. Moving on, this is the fee income booster that I was talking about, where you get extra credits on your scores depending upon the business that you generate from your map book. Now, let's assume that 70% and above of your business comes, the fee income business come from your portfolio customers. So whatever is your fee income scores increases by 30%. And that is what we are saying. There's a booster effect on your scores. So your fee income scores take a hike by 30%. Let's say if your fee income business is generated in the range of 60 to less than 70% from your map book, then there's a 20% increment on your fee income scores. 50 to less than 60%, then there would be a 15% increment on your fee income scores. Now, this scores becomes important because your total scores need to cross the benchmark of 60%. And when you have the opportunity to maximize your scores, this is one such opportunity to do that. So the same business that you do, if you can focus on your portfolio customers and generate fee income from there, you get that advantage of a booster, which otherwise would not be, because whatever credit you're getting for a particular fee income that you're generating would be as is, right? So let's say if I'm getting 10 points, I get only 10 points here because it's sourced from an open architecture. But let's say the 10 points stands to get maximized into, let's say, an additional 3 points. I might maximize it to 11, 12, as the case may be, if I'm focusing it from my portfolio customers. And that is what we are talking about. There is no advantage of a booster given if less than 50% of your fee income is generated from your map book. So as you grow, as you increase your fee income from within your portfolio, the booster comes into play. If less than 50% of your business come from your map book, so you get credit as is credit. No advantage of the booster will come into play. And that is what we are talking about in the fee income booster. So the booster starts when you cross the threshold of 50%. So anything more than 50% from your map book, automatically your scores will start getting increased. And 15%, 20%, 30%, depending upon how much you have been able to generate from your portfolio. So those are your part B scores, which is your fee income scores, completely fungible, every business counting for your incentives and that business taking an advantage of the booster if that business is being sourced from your portfolio customers. Let's look at the revenue calculation. So today I have the score calculation that is being done. I also would want to figure out what is the revenue that the RM has been able to contribute to the bank. And for that reason, we need to understand the revenues. So this is the revenue calculation model where your CASA, increase in your CASA book would be checked and the incremental business is what that is being counted. So what is the incremental increase that we see in your MDAP? In your ETB CASA MDAB is what calculates your revenues. Now, how do we calculate this revenue? We multiply it by 3.5% for CASA. And that is the revenue that you have generated on your ETB CASA book. Now, what happens is because these values or the balances fluctuate and there could be a possibility that there is a marked depletion in the RM book, what we do is any kind of downside or the depletion that we see in your CASA MDAP is restricted to 10%. So what does this mean? It means that you will still get a chance to make incentives even if there is a sizable depletion that we see in your portfolio because the downside is restricted. So today there will not be an opportunity where the RM does not make any incentive because the book has degrown substantially. The downward impact or the erosion impact is restricted and capped at 10%. So any kind of hit on your incentive would be restricted to 10% because of the erosion that we see. So that is what we are trying to talk about here. ETB CASA growth, we would want to see the incremental growth. The incremental growth that we check for the purpose of revenue will be calculated at 3.5%. And that would be the revenue numbers that you have generated. In case if there's a depletion, that depletion is also restricted so that the impact does not untowardly, impact your incentive structure. Similarly, even in case of CA, especially now since we are sourcing both savings account and current accounts, if there is a marked depletion or downside in your CA MDAP, that also would be restricted to 10%. So at any given point in time, these kind of erosions are taken care of. The downsides are being restricted in terms of their impact on your revenues that you earn or in terms of the incentives that you plan to make. Let's look at the NTB CASA MDAP. Again, what we are talking about is what is the incremental that you have brought into your NTB books. And this incremental, again, is calculated at 3.5%. And here, what we have is sourcing that you have sourced and accounts that have got mapped to you in this financial year. So today, if you source an account and the LC is yours, you get MDAP credit right from day one. And this we got a clarity even in our KRA document where for the LC, for the accounts that you are an LC, you get 100% MDAP credit from day one. For the accounts that have got mapped to you, the MDAP value credits would come to you from M1, and that is the incremental business that we see for which you will be getting a credit. However, if there is a downside, if there's an erosion in the account and the balances have fallen, then there would not be any impact given for the purpose of incentive calculation. That is what we are trying to highlight here in terms of your incremental ETB book or for the matter NTB book. We need to understand the revenues that you have generated, and this would be the calculation basis which the revenues would be arrived at. Any questions on this piece, on how the calculation or the revenue calculation works for your book, ETB as well as NTB? Yes? Any further clarity required here? Reena? Preeti? Any questions in your minds? If you can unmute and speak. No response. Others? Any questions? Sadashiv? Clear
No,
so
ma'am,
far?
as of now. Yeah.
All right. Let's move ahead. Let's see the incentive document further down. Let's look at the TD. The same goes for TD calculations as well. We would want to make sure that the incremental TD also has grown. So whatever is the TD book that has been assigned to you, we would want that TD book to grow. However, for the purpose of revenue calculation, the TD is calculated at 0.3%. So the incremental values considered for revenue would be at 0.3% to the incremental increase that we see. And at any point in time, if your TD book is showing a downside or if it's showing an erosion, that would be restricted at 10% again. So this is how the bank has designed so that every opportunity, you have an opportunity to make your incentives. And in case if there is a downward movement seen in your book, the impact of that is restricted or capped at 10%, be it in terms of for the purpose of revenue calculation or for the matter of score calculation in case of TD. Now, this revenue contributes to your TD revenue or for that matter, your CASA revenue earlier for your ETB and NTB books. The fee income parameter is fairly straightforward. Whatever are the points that have been given across each of those products, the points multiplied by 1,000 is the revenue that you have generated for fee income. Again, a clear open sourcing available here for fee income. So go ahead and source accounts. But like I said, the fee income booster effect will apply only to the business that you generate from your map book. And that again, subject to what is the number or the quantity of business that you generate. So basis that, the booster would come into play. So fee income OCS RFR is exactly based on the point structure. So whatever is the points that you earn for a particular product in 2000 will be considered as the revenue that you generate for fee income. And your total revenues would be a total of your CASA revenues that you have generated, the TD revenues that you have generated, and the fee income revenue. That is the total revenue that an RM has brought forth to the bank after the portfolio allocation has been done to him. Now, once we arrive at the revenues, we understand the payouts. So whatever is the amount of revenue that you generate, depending upon the scores, a percentage gets paid out as incentive. Since all of us are new RMs, let's focus on the second table here, where if you are scoring less than 60%, obviously there are no incentives, but 60 and above, you have a scope of making incentives. And what is the percentage of payout that comes your way? So your total revenues, a percentage of 3% would be paid out as incentive for you if your performance of your scores is greater than 60 and less than 75%. If your scores are in the range of 75 to less than 90, you get 5% as a payout. 90 to less than 110, you'll get 8%. 110 to less than 150, you'll get 11% as a payout. And anything greater than 150%, you will get 14% as your payout. Now, please understand, because we are focusing on liabilities, because we are focusing on fee income, these would be very, very important parameters for you to score or maximize your incentives. When we are talking about balances, we would want these balances, the deepening to happen from, obviously from other bank accounts, the funding needs to happen to your portfolio accounts. These balances should stay so that they can make an impact on your MDAP balances. Daily balances are being checked, and basis that the incremental business is being checked. Similarly, when you have opportunity to maximize your scores, we would want you to take the leverage of that, because business any which ways is being done, but smart business will help you achieve your KRAs faster and also increase the quantum of incentives that you make, right? So this is the payout rate. So depending upon your score, so the highest that you can earn is a 14% payout, wherein you will have to score you will have to score 150% and above. So 150% and above will take you to the highest slab, where you'll get a 14% of the revenue as payout as incentives. Now, incentives are paid on a quarterly fashion. So for the month of Jan, Feb, March, the incentive disbursement will happen in the April, May, June. So June salaries, you will be receiving the credits for the incentives that you make in this quarter. Now, incentive the document undergoes a change on an annual basis. So how your KRAs change, starting April, you'll have a fresh set of KRAs. Starting April, you'll have a new incentive structure in place. So please consciously, right from the start of the year, see what those parameters are. What are the areas that you would need to work on, so that you are clear from day one what is the work that you need to do and how is it that you need to go about doing things so that you can make those incentives. Let's look at the kicker penalty. Now, this is extremely critical, and this, I believe, is what Shripati was referring to, where your NOA points decide whether you make incentives or not. Friends, please remember, all of you all have been hired as RMs, and acquisition is one of the key roles that we are expecting from you. The accounts that you're servicing, the ETB accounts, have any which ways been brought in by the previous RM or people in the past, and that is what the servicing is being taken care of. But what we want you to do is drive and source fresh business, bring in new blood, maximize the opportunities for cross-sell, because generally you would find, for a new account, it's on an open slate. You have entire world, all the opportunities available for you for cross-sell, for engagement, and for increasing the business. Whereas for an ETB accounts, a lot of them would already have been sourced in terms of opportunities. Maybe it would be comparatively less as compared to the new accounts. So this is what we are talking about in terms of a kicker or a penalty. Now, everybody stands to make incentives if you do 60% of your NOA budgets, right? When we are talking about RMs, what we are expecting? We are expecting 4 accounts from you per month, and that is what we are saying. Means meet your acquisition numbers. If you meet your acquisition numbers, the incentive amounts take a hike. If you do not meet your acquisition numbers, the incentive amounts take a hit. And that is the kicker penalty that we are talking about. So today, if you do not achieve 60% of your acquisition numbers, the NOA points, you do not make any incentives. Whereas if you make or if you achieve 60 to 80, less than 80% of your NOA points, you will make incentives, but that incentive amount will take a penalty. And that is the docking that we do for the incentive values, which is a negative 20%. So the incentive values will be reduced by 20%. The same applies if your acquisition numbers are in the range of 80 to less than 100%. Your incentives take a hit by 10%, right? On the contrary, if you meet your acquisition numbers and your performance is less than 100 to less than 120, so you have not only met your NOA budgets, the points that you were supposed to make, but you've done well on that. So we appreciate the amount, the effort that you have put in, and the incentives take a hike. So it gets upward by 5%, or in the range of 120 to less than 150%, your incentive amounts can get hiked by 10%. Or if it's better than greater than 150%, then your incentives will take a hike by 20%. So that is the organization appreciating the good work and letting you know if you have not met your budgets or if you have not met your points that expected, then your incentives also will be accordingly compromised. This is very, very important to know that you need to cross the threshold of 60% in terms of your NOA points. And we are giving you equal opportunity to do that. If you would have gone through the KRA document, you would have found that every account, while it gets 9 points for sourcing and funding within the timelines, you also have an opportunity to convert that 9 points to 18 points if you use the digital options, if you use the multiplier in terms of funding. So it is very easy to make those numbers. It is not very difficult. All you need to do is understand how you would want to go about doing things and use the maximizing effect for intelligently so that you can meet those numbers. Shripati, I would want to check with you. Does that make sense? Is your question answered? Or do we still have any questions on sourcing?
Cleared, madam.
Yeah?
Cleared.
All right. So this is what we are talking about here, that it is imperative as an RM, if you've been hired for the role, you also perform as expected by the organization. We want all RMs to achieve 100% of their acquisition numbers. If not, you still have an opportunity to make incentives, but you will have to cross the benchmark of 60% and above. The multiplier is what we would want you to remember and recall. So account opening through the BYOD, through the VSIP mode brings in that multiplier effect. And that's how we would want you to look at. So try as far as possible going for the digital route of account opening. And there is also the funding multiplier, which continues even for your incentives, right? So the incentive, the NOA points that you earn, the multiplier applies here as well, like your KRA for BYOD, 1.25 times the multiplier for BYOD, 1.5 times for your VSIP. The funding multiplier is also available, wherein you also get to ensure that you get twice the amounts for funding, and that funding needs to stay for a minimum of 1 month. At the end of the following month, we want the priority proposition values to be seen in the account. So if you're opening the account by 4 lakh, we want at the end of month 1, a minimum of 2 lakh to be seen in the account. As long as that is observed, you get the multiplier, 0.5 multiplier for funding as well. So there is a very good opportunity for each one of you to meet those numbers. It's not very difficult. All you need to do is understand how it is designed and work appropriately. So today for a non-salary account, we would want the funding happens within the timelines, and you ensure that you take twice the IP for account opening, which stays at the end of month 1. It meets the eligibility criteria of the priority account, and that is all that we are looking at. The same for an NRI account. We want the funding to happen by month 0 or month 1, as the case may be, and the funding to be seen by the end of the following month, month 1. So there should not be any erosion of balances. Even if balances have eroded, we want the priority balances, or as per the proposition, we want balances to be seen in these customer accounts. For salary account, again, we would want to make sure that the salaries, twice the values are seen in the salary accounts, and the balances stay at the end of month 1. Family accounts and current accounts are the accounts that are not considered for the multiplier, but they will still be considered for BYOD and the VSIP process. So the multiplier on that front is available, but here the funding multiplier is the only thing that would not be available. Now, there is also a kicker and penalty that is in place. Now, this is purely on how your book behaves, right? So we have a CASA book, we have a TD book, and each RM will have its own unique portfolio. where there is a movement that is seen in the CASA book, there is a different movement that is seen in your TD book, and that is what we are talking about, a liability kicker. Please understand, liability kicker again enhances or increases the incentives that you make. How is what we will see here. Today, it is a pure kicker. So what you need to understand is there is no penalty here, but it's a pure win-win for the RM, depending upon how the book is behaving or how his portfolio is behaving. So if your TD, if your CASA book and your TD book do not have any kind of growth, and that growth is less than 20%, there is no advantage for you. There's no kicker element coming in for you. However, even if there is a little bit of growth observed, which is over and about 20%, be it in your CASA book or in your TD book, you get the advantage of the liability kicker. And that is how it has been understood. So let's look at the table, and there are different permutation combinations given for you. And depending upon how your book behaves, that kicker would play for you. Right. So let's say my CASA book has not grown at all. So it's less than 20%, but I have done fairly well on my TD side. So let's say my TD book has grown by less, let's say in the second slab, which is greater than 20%, less than 50%. I get an advantage of a 5% kicker on my incentive, right? Similarly, let's say if my TD book has grown substantially well and there's no less than, there's no change or less growth in my CASA book, but my TD book has grown by more than 50%, I get an advantage of a 10% kicker on my incentives. And that is why my incentive values after upper cap adjustment is increasing that much. That is what we need to understand by the liability kicker. Let's look at the second slabs, right? So your TD CASA book has shown some marginal improvement. So increased by 20%, but less than 50%. But my TD unfortunately has not grown, right? So it is less than 20%. So I get a 5% advantage. My CASA has grown by 20 to less than 50%, but my TD here has grown from greater to 20, but less than 50. Here I get a 15% advantage. So depending upon which or how much movement is seen in your CASA book and your TD book, that particular slab will be counted to figure out what is the kicker that you are getting. So today, let's say your CASA has done phenomenally well, has increased by 50%, and your TD also has increased by 50%. That is where you get the highest kicker, which is a 25% increment on your incentives after adjustment, after all the upper cap adjustments. So 25% hike because of phenomenal performance that we see in your books, in your portfolios. A 50% increase in your CASA book and a 50% increase in 50% and above increase in your TD book. So this is what we are saying at any given point in time, the organization going all out to ensure that you all have an opportunity to make incentives, and we are also motivating you to do well by putting in all these different kinds of, be it the booster, be it the kicker that we are putting it into play. However, if your scores are less than 60%, again, please remember the gating parameter of scores will always apply. You need to make sure that your scores of fee income, liability, and customer engagement are 60% and above. If it is less than 60%, then there is no incentive. Any questions on the liability kicker? Ajit? Any questions from your side? Others as well?
No, ma'am. No
No, ma'am.
questions.
Yeah? Lavina, are we there? Any questions from your side? So while I didn't see many hands for understanding the incentive or people who confirm that they have seen the incentive structure, I don't find many questions as well. So just wanted to check if you all are with me and listening into the session. Yes. Lavina, any doubts?
No, ma'am.
All right. Okay. So let's look at the upper cap, because these are values that we are very, very keen to know. So depending upon your grade, these are the values that you can make as incentives on a quarterly basis. So an assistant manager can make 1.75 lakhs per quarter, deputy manager 2.25 lakhs. And again, these are the incentive values which are applicable for this particular quarter. Like I said, starting April next year, you will have a revised incentive structure. And I'm sure those numbers and those figures will be as fantastic as this one. So quite substantial numbers. Like I said, when these are values that are up for grabs every quarter, a smart RM can definitely try and make those numbers. And this is what we are saying is all you need to focus is on in your liability book. All you need to do is make sure that you understand what those parameters and work towards maximizing every bit of hard work and business that you do. It's not very difficult. And like I said, the values that are up for grabs as incentives are also quite handsome, so to say, best in the industry, if I may say so. So those are the values. Let's understand how the actual calculation works. So you have the scores which decide whether you qualify or not. So the total scores will become extremely critical. We also have the payout rates depending upon the revenues that you generate. So today you need to understand that whatever is the revenues that you generate, a part of it gets paid out as incentives. So I need to understand the revenues that I make. So for that, I understand that, how much incremental that business that I have brought in, the values of CASA, that is 3.5, 0.3 in case of TD. So I understand my revenues that I've generated. Even for IPG, I know there's a point structure, multiply by 1,000 would be the revenues that I bring in. So scores into revenue will give you or make you qualify for a particular incentive amount. This incentive amount is first screened for NOA. Have you met the acquisition numbers? Now, if you have met your acquisition numbers 60% and above, your incentives will still continue. However, depending upon your acquisition performance, your incentives will either undergo a penalty or the incentive amount will take a kicker or will get increased, right? So the first screen that we do after arriving at the incentive value is check for your acquisition points. How have you done on the NOA piece? After this particular leveling has been done, either an upward or a downward, the incentive values are checked for upper cap. So just in the previous slide, we saw what are the upper caps that are applicable for each grade. So depending upon your grade, we will check whether this incentive value fits within the grade or should it be adjusted. If it is within the grade, there is no adjustment. We continue with the calculations. However, if it is above, your incentive values are more than what is applicable for your grade, then it will get adjusted for capping and you will have the revised incentive amount. This incentive amount is then given the liability kicker. Now that is what we are saying. Even after an adjustment for upper cap, you can maximize your incentives. And when we say a 25% hike, let's say your books have done really well, the liability as well as the TD book, and we have seen up to 25% hike over and above the upper cap adjustment, which means that for deserving RMs, the upper cap is also not a benchmark. You can earn much more than what the upper caps are. And that is what the organization believes in, completely performance oriented incentive structure. As long as you do well, the organization recognizes and rewards you in terms of incentives. So the liability kicker, that's why, is a kicker that is placed after your upper cap adjustments. So ideally, you would have received what is the maximum that you're supposed to receive. But because if you've been doing good work, we would want to appreciate that and give you more than what was earlier designated as the upper cap. So that's what the liability kicker comes into play. And you have an intermediate payout amount. Now, intermediate payout amount would be paid out to you, like I said, depending upon whether the liability gating has been taken care. So the gating is very, very important. The 60% that we talk about in terms of your gating parameter, the threshold needs to be met for the final payout of incentives to come into your bank accounts, right? Have you understood the payout calculation? Do we have any queries or questions as far as the calculation goes and how your incentives take a hit or maybe take a hike, as the case may be, in different steps? Yes? Any questions here on the payout piece? Yes, no, Nikhil? Any questions?
No, what is the amount capped per quarter, madam?
It is as per your grade. So these are your upper caps. So currently for this quarter, these are your upper caps. So today, if you're a manager, the maximum you can earn as a PBRM is 2.75 lakhs per quarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
From every quarter, this amount will change, ma'am.
Generally, what happens is the organization releases a KRA document which is freezed for the entire year. The incentive document is a quarterly document that gets released. So every quarter we have a incentive document that comes in. So generally what happens is the incentive, that document that gets released in April continues. And in case if we feel that, there's certain motivation or something that needs to be done, depending upon how the performance is going, it gets tweaked. But more or less, this is how the incentive documents runs. So in terms of small changes, motivators, boosters might come into play. But more or less, this is the design of the incentive structure. So you need to understand, as long as you understand your KRAs, you can make your incentives. You need to understand what is the weightage, because sometimes what happens is we put too much energies on a particular parameter, which may be a very, very small portion of my KRA. So I may do phenomenally well in one parameter, but on the whole, when I see a total performance, it's a very small percentage. So when I say liabilities, you need to understand if liabilities is occupying 50% of your KRA and 50% of your incentives, that's where you need to focus your energies. Your fee income can contribute 25% of your incentives. Your customer engagement brings in another 25% of your incentives. So understand these parameters, focus your energies where it is required, how you need to do it, the incentive document, your KRA document, giving you all those tips also, so that you can maximize and you can work towards making those amounts. If we don't understand this, then that is where we go wrong, where we feel that I've put in the efforts, but unfortunately it's not bringing in the results that you hoped for. And on top of that, for incentives, you also have an incentive simulator. So even before I do business, all I need to do is go into my branch analytics tool, go into the incentive simulator, put in those values to see what is the net incentive amount that I stand to gain. So that is the advanced information that I have. So let's say if I open 5 accounts, how is my incentives changing? If I do a particular amount as business and life insurance, how is it making an impact on my incentives that I take home? So the incentive simulator also is a great handy tool for you to work on, keep tweaking it, keep looking into it, because those are already factored in to make sure that, you're meeting your gating parameters, you're meeting your numbers, and only then will the final payout value reflect. So at any point in time, if your performance is less than benchmark, then it will clearly show that you are not likely to make any incentives. So if you have the KRA document in consultation with the incentive document, things will be very, very easy. And that's why we say in induction, you need to get that clarity so that efforts are structured and bring in the kind of results that you're hoping for. Yes. Any other questions? Okay.
Hello.
So let's,
Good evening,
yeah,
ma'am.
go ahead. Yeah.
You actually briefed very well, but I think until and unless we correlate with the exact our incentive payout, like it shows in branch analytics, so we don't get much idea. Is it possible to show that kind of PPT or like this?
So that is why I asked you to look into your simulator, right? You have the incentive simulator in branch analytics. Put in those values, you'll be able to see for yourself what is the incentive amounts that are likely to come your way. So use that effectively, be it across your cross-sell fee income products, or for that matter, the numbers that you do in terms of the values that you bring in terms of the balances build up that you do in your portfolios. That is an excellent tool and the go-to tool that is being used by RMs effectively to understand the changes in the incentives that are coming their way. So that is available for each one of you all. As long as you have access to branch analytics, all you need to do is get into the branch simulator, incentive simulator tab and work on it. Yeah, let's move to Vishal. Vishal, go ahead. Can't hear you. Not audible.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm audible, ma'am.
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Ma'am, the manager level, the incentive is 2.75 is a maximum capping, correct?
For the manager, 2.75 would be the upper cap, correct?
Okay. And the second is it's only for the retail, not accountable for the asset also.
It is your total incentives that you make, no? So when you talk about incentives, it is a total of your fee income also, which has IPG, OCS, and RFR inbuilt in it. So it's your total KRA.
Okay. Okay. Fine. 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 Thanks.
Any other questions? All right. So let's look at the links. Like I said, branch analytics, and that is the path for you to access the incentive calculator on branch analytics. Make sure that you visit this tab, put in those values and see for yourself what are the incentives that are coming your way. A great tool, like I said, for you to even figure out, even before you do business, what it is. Keep checking your MISs. Another thing that generally gets missed out by RMs is whether they see they have done the business, I've done the groundwork, but maybe the MIS is not reflecting. So please make sure that you take timely action for any kind of business credit that is missing against your name. So you need to ensure that you track the performance, that you track your incentives, and that is the other link that we have shared with you, the SAS link. This is the link for you to track your performance against each of those KRA parameters, the budgets vis-a-vis the achievements, what is the status, where do you stand, which are the aspects that you would need to work on, so that throughout the year you don't need anyone to guide you, tell you, you yourself are competent enough to understand where you stand, which are the parameters that need to be worked upon, where are you on each of those parameters in terms of budgets versus achievements, so on and so forth. So the SAS link becomes critical for you, the path shared with you, the branch analytics critical for you to understand the incentive simulator. So those are critical links for you. You need to make sure that you have access to both these links, because any tool in Axis Bank is available to the RM basis your user ID getting mapped to that tool, and you access it through your password, your ID and password. So you need to make sure that that access is available for these important tools that you would work on. At any point in time, if the business credits are not seen, immediately put in a Unidesk a request asking and seeking clarifications for the same. But like I said, it could be a reason that, maybe you have not done it in the right fashion. For example, you have done business but did not put in the CRM entry, or you put the CRM entry too late. So then it becomes a struggle, because what would have easily come your way, now you have to fight it out. You have to give those justifications, explanations, which may or may not be accepted, and the business credit map to you. So why spend time and energy doing things? Let's try and opt for doing things first time right, which is the philosophy of Axis Bank. So understand what is expected from each of you, understand the process, and start doing things as per process from day one, so that we can avoid all these kind of unnecessary rework and follow-ups that are required, right? So the SAS link, the branch analytics links there for all of you all to see. There's some terms and conditions, and that is what we would also want you to focus on. One is your, certifications. As an RM, it is very, very important that you are SPN EUIN certified. For those who are not certified, we would want you to register and complete those certifications as quickly as possible. For those who are doing their renewal or transfers, we would want you to make sure that at least from your side, everything has been done and you have put it up to the team, because there's always a time lag that is seen between the same getting registered and recorded at Axis Bank, because it needs to come in from maybe a previous organization, get mapped to Axis Bank. So ensure that as far as your certifications are there, those are over and done with. The process might be in underway, and that is fine, but at least there is no pendency from the RM side. As far as that is maintained, we are you are clear. When there is things that are left to be done from the RM side, that is where the problems start seeping in. You have not fixed up the appointments for an exam date, or the examinations are not yet scheduled. You have not done the paperwork that is required for transfer, so on and so forth. So ensure that you are SPN EUIN certified. Again, today we would want to make sure that you have spent 30 days in the system for you to qualify for incentives, and that I'm sure all of you all have done. We are also very particular to ensure that, there's no kind of mis-selling that happens for, any kind of claims. And if that is observed, then again, there is a no incentive clause that gets applied. So ensure that you do things the right way and enjoy the results of your hard work as well. So for the Q4 incentive cycle, you'll be getting your incentives in the month of June salaries. At any point in time, if an employee has resigned or is on notice, he will not receive his incentives. And this is what I was talking about. Any kind of inappropriate selling, mis-selling is observed, then directly there's a no incentive payout clause that gets applied for the business that you do. So please, don't fall on the wrong side of things. So that's a little bit about incentives, which is subject to change in about 15 days from now. But this is how you will be, measured for incentives for this quarter at least. Are we clear on incentives? Yes, no? I see Logi. Logi, how are
Yes,
you? Joined
yeah.
the session late. So not only are you joining late, you are missing from sessions also. That's what we observed in the previous session. Logi joined, but unfortunately was not around throughout the session. Let me check. Vidya also has joined in. Hi, Vidya, how are you?
Hello, ma'am. Hello. Vidya, ma'am. I'm there in the call.
You're there in the call today. You were not there in the previous call when I called out your name twice. So it's not
Ma'am,
just marking attendance. You also need to respond.
Ma'am,
All right.
sorry, ma'am. That might be a network issue. I have given answers to my bosses also who were earlier.
All right. Like I said, it can change depending upon participation. It's a daily check that we do for the participants who are logged in. So 29 participants logged in. Would request you to log in on time so that your attendance doesn't take a hit. And we would want you to be by now, everyone is familiar that you have a merge session and you have your batch session that happens. One point that I would want to highlight is we are on day 3 of your training, and we would want you to complete the modules that we have covered so far. So the LMS is also being tracked on a daily basis. So ensure that you're clearing of your modules, because otherwise by the end of the training program, if there are modules pending, that again would be a problem for you. So as long we do it diligently on a daily basis, it becomes easier and there's no pooling up or piling up of modules that are left to be cleared. So on a daily basis, MISs are being tracked to see how many of y'all are covering and clearing the LMS modules. So remember, there are only limited attempts. So that again is something you will have to factor in. So while you have study modules, go through the study modules. Don't directly just attempt the test, because you're losing that count. You're losing that attempt in that interim. So have a quick run through of the modules and then appear for your LMS, and keep doing it in a systematic manner. The more disciplined you are, the easier it is for you. Otherwise, like I said, the MIS will show something else and it will unnecessarily impact you. Yes, I see a hand raised by Rohit. Go ahead, Rohit.
I have a question about this LMS that you talked about. I cannot see any modules which has got assigned to me for this training.
So the modules it's a self-study module, right? So you
I
have
cannot see any.
The assessments are not yet tagged to you. Is that what you're
No.
saying? Can others
Yes.
please check and let me know? As far as we were given to understand, all the modules were assigned and tagged. Is it a person specific? Yeah. I'm just checking with the others, Rohit.
Ma'am, this is Wahid. Wahid, ma'am. I didn't get assigned any modules, ma'am.
Is it? Let me
Yes.
just see if Rintu is in session. Give me a minute. Rintu, are you around? Just give me a minute. So Rohit and Wahid are telling me that LMS modules are not yet assigned. Can someone please quickly check? All you need to do is get into LMS and check, so that I can have a majority consensus and I can. So Jagdish says it is assigned. Okay. Okay. Rintu?
Yeah, hi Vidya, am I audible?
Yeah, a quick question on LMS. LMS has been mapped to everyone, right? They can start doing their test because I have 2 participants here who say that they are unable to see those modules. Can you just let us know, friends, who is facing a problem on the LMS? Because it's good that you raised it now because we would want to make sure that you are active and clearing those LMS modules simultaneously. So I believe Rohit had an issue. Rohit?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Rohit, why you have an issue? Because the list which I have got it from Abhishek sir, Rohit name was not nominated in that.
Not there. Yeah. So he's a last
Later,
minute. Okay.
correct. So what you can do, Rohit, you can just send me a mail. Okay, you have to mention your name, employee code, and your mobile number. That is the number which has been registered in your for LMS. That is registered in a mobile. Sorry, in bank. Based on that registered mobile number, what will happen? We will send a request to the concerned person team of LMS team, and they will be
They'll be mapping those modules to you. So Rohit, I would request you to do it as soon as possible. You have Rintu, who is the person who has mailed you all those session links, session plan, and all that. Put up a mail to him so that he can immediately take it with the LMS team and have those modules assigned. I think Wahid was the other person who was facing an issue. Wahid,
what is the issue?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not able to see this, ma'am. When I'm filtering it, also I'm not unable to see that.
No, the assessment has been not tagged or that is the.
Your voice is breaking.
Are the assessments reflecting for you?
In my dashboard, all everything is reflecting as 0. Assessment 0, all learnings, assignment 0. Everything is 0. It has been looking it. When I'm using the options for filters, also assigned, applying these options.
So it's a day-wise module basically. So you have the module that you look into, that you browse through, and then you complete your assessment, which is the following tab below that. So that's how the thing works.
Hello. I'll check.
I think
Balchandra wants to speak.
Yeah,
Balchandra,
even I also didn't see that modules in my LMS actually.
Okay.
Ma'am, if somebody can, help us in getting that screenshot, how that it looks like, that will be helpful.
All you need to do is log into your LMS and, under the One Access app, you will be able to see the LMS, click the LMS link, and you will be able to see the various modules that are assigned or tagged to you. Is there someone who has successfully gone through the LMS modules in the session? Anyone here?
Ma'am, I have completed.
All right.
3.
So
One
Manisha,
is,
I would
incomplete.
request you to just, that's fine. But just to help Wahid and Balchandra, Rohit to at least mapping hua nahi hai. But Wahid and Balchandra, if you can just guide them as to how you went through accessing your LMS modules and clearing the assessment.
Ma'am, the same way you said, I opened my One Access app and in there is LMS learning. I opened that and through that I have done. And I had some issues in the starting and opening LMS before this for 2 to 3 days. So in the morning I was going to the office and I was doing my LMS.
Yeah.
There I opened the link and I did.
So that is what it is, because all the candidates who are, who participate in the induction program also get tagged these modules in LMS. And there are timelines within which you need to complete, and that is the training days that we are holding. So post the training, the dump would get generated and we would want to make sure that you are clear. The reason why we want you to do it and start doing this activity is there are around 11 odd modules, I think 10 or 11 modules that are tagged to you, and each of these might not get cleared in the first attempt. So you might have to give a couple of attempts before you clear that 80% threshold and show the module shows as complete. So you would spend some time there, and all this coupled with month end, coupled with the short span of time that we have, might be challenging for those who are not doing it in a disciplined manner. All right.
Ma'am, I just wanted to know, ma'am, I have completed my one LMS, but it comes only till 19 and it says 19.2, it should be completed. So
you have another attempt. You have another attempt. So
I have only 3 more attempts for that and I get close to 19.
and make sure that you should get 80% of all these assessments.
80% is the benchmark that we have kept for your LMS modules.
If
So
you
as
won't
long as
if you won't
sorry,
get
great to good.
There's 19.2, so that 2.2 it doesn't go further.
And I'm sure, are we talking about the priority proposition here? Is that the
No,
module
I
that
was
you're
talking about
finding
my
useful?
current priority position. I had finished in my second attempt. I'm talking about my current account.
Current account, okay. So maybe you might have to go through the modules a little bit in detail, because like I said, sometimes we just rush through the modules and we assume and we directly get into the test, and that is where we
No,
lose
I
an
had read my slides also, but it's just that here and there, one or two, it's like stuck.
Yeah. So all the best for you to complete your current account module. All right. So that's it from me today, at least on the incentive piece. And I hope and I wish all of you all the best that you make those incentives. Like I said, opportunities available for all. All it requires is a little bit of focus and discipline, and you'll be able to do that. And again, a gentle reminder for all those to keep track of your LMS so that you are at par with the others when the MISs get generated. All right. So before we wrap up, any other questions, any other issues that you would want to address or discuss? Okay. So I don't see any hands. So let me close the session for the today. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
ముప్పై ఎక్స్ట్రా పడుతుంది.
వెళ్తా తెలుగు కొట్టేది మంచి పాటలు చూస్తుంది తెలుగు పాటలు పోలే జస్టిస్ వాళ్ళు తెలుగు వాళ్ళు అంటే కాదు మంచి కాదు అది రకమున్నా రైతు దొరికినప్పుడు హాయ్ ఎవరైనా నేను బయటకు వచ్చాను ఇంట్లోకి వచ్చినాను కళా కనబడ్డాను బాగుంటుంది ఆనందంగా అది తెలుసు అలా ఉండాలి రారా దా కట్టుకోండి బాగు అలా అయితే చేయడం మంచి దొరుకు మంచి డాగ్ నువ్వు కూడా కోడి
Cody, Devans. Devans. Like a ball. Devans. Good. Chicken. Reverse side. నువ్వు ఇంట్లో టోల్ పెట్టుకో అలాంటి కుమ్మడోళ్ళకి అందరికి మంచిది కాదు టో పెట్టుకో అది దొరుకుతాయి కదా చూడు కాల్కి నీ కాల్కి Devans, bye. Devans, bye. Keep over. Yes, sir. నేను కాదు నేను వేసుకుని షార్టే కనిపించి 4 టీ-షర్ట్లు కూడా కావు 2 టీ-షర్ట్లు అదే టీచర్ 20 టీచర్ నా బట్టలు కాదు అక్కడ పెట్టేస్తున్నారు లేకపోతే ఇట్లా ఆగేది అదా Just keep going. Just keep going. That's it. That's it. Bye. That's it, Charu. Wait, I am just. So. No, it's not. How? There's all. That's it, bro. Está. One by one. పుట్టోడు సైకిల్ కొన్నాడు పుట్టోడు పొట్టి సైకిల్ కొన్నాడు పొట్టి సైకిల్ కొన్నాడు పొట్టోడు పొట్టోడు ఏం చేశాడు అన్నయ్యో అన్నయ్య కిందకి పోయినాడు పొట్టోడు పొట్టోడు This is Papa. Hi, Papa. Hey, hey, hey.